The AMG story is also the story of high-performance engines. With high performance, maximum torque, and many technical innovations. Repeatedly, AMG engines have been voted Engine of the Year, such as AMG's 6.3-liter V8 engine.
The good old days.
To develop the world's best engines, we have to supply our engineers with the best equipment. It is our goal to develop engines that are as efficient as possible. Now, AMG proudly presents its latest development highlight, the AMG 5.5-liter V8 naturally aspirated engine.
What a legendary of an engine. And the thing here, the good old days are actually back, and that is what we're going to talk about in this video.
And more powerful than its predecessor. Better performance through optimized gas exchange. Camshaft controllers modify the control times of the valves according to power requirements. Permanent automatic valve time adjustment optimizes torque, performance, and consumption. Piezo multiple injection with up to 200 bar pressure detects the optimum fuel-efficient injection and ignition timing in milliseconds. With these technological innovations, the highly compressed V8 naturally aspirated engine achieves up to 540 Newton-meters and 45 kilowatts more power than its predecessor. These components boost performance and are the basis for more efficiency. Regulated exhaust flaps provide the AMG typical roaring engine sound.
That is not something that we're going to get back though, because of regulations, specifically in Europe, it's not going to sound as good as a good old, you know, V8s and the 63 and the 55. With that deep rumble, that is not something that we're unfortunately going to get back. But we are getting back the V8.
The new AMG 5.5-liter V8 naturally aspirated engine. More power, great performance, and high torque.
So, as you know, the new C63 is powered by a 4-cylinder, and that is just not gonna work. Sales have been declining steadily since they introduced the current generation C63 with the 4-cylinder. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at Mercedes' plans to bring the legendary V8 C63 back from this article from The Drive. And this is very, very good news for any V8 enthusiast, and specifically AMG enthusiast, even though the sound is not going to be the same, but still we get the V8 back. So Mercedes AMG will give the C63 its V8 back after all, report. I'm going to link this down in the description. AMG is working on a brand new V8 hybrid powertrain. Enthusiasts cried foul after the Mercedes AMG C63 downsized from a twin-turbocharged 4-liter V8 to a hybrid system built around a 2-liter Turbo 4. Executive initially replied with, "Deal with it." I don't think that's the right response to your customers who love your product. And AMG CEO definitely denied the rumors claiming that a V8 was coming back, but it sounds like they might have changed their minds. And I think, you know, it all has to do with the sales. They're like, people love the old the C63 was half the car was the engine, the V8. And people don't want this 4-cylinder, so we're not making money on the C63. So maybe we need to, you know, dial it back a little bit and go back to the old ways, and that is exactly what I think is going to happen with the C63. The V8 power will return to the C63 in the next couple of years, according to a recent report. And anonymous sources within Mercedes wrote that the new V8 that AMG has confirmed it's developing will land between the C63 flared fenders in 2026, so just a year from now, and it will lean heavily on the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that's powered the last generation C63. Great news there, because that was a fantastic engine. Now, one of the biggest changes detailed by Autocar is the shift from a cross-plane crankshaft to a flat-plane crankshaft. And this change will give the V8 improved throttle response and higher redline. Sounds great. It will also allow engineers to use a smaller crankcase, which should mean that the V8 could fit neatly into cars that wasn't originally developed or designed to house this V8. So we might see this in more models than we expect. So AMG reportedly plans to rely on artificial sound generator to bring back some of the exhaust burble that will be lost with a flat plane crank. And here's the thing, when we have new engines and new regulations, new noise, regulations that we have specifically in Europe, I'd rather have it be the natural sound of the engine than to have it be artificial. That's just my opinion. Even though it's not gonna sound as good as the old AMG V8s, it's still okay to have that natural sound instead of just pumping in artificial sounds in the cabin. So you have a mild hybrid 48-volt technology here. The current generation C63 uses a plug-in hybrid drivetrain that consists of a 2-liter turbo 4, a rear-mounted electric motor, and a 6.1 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. The drivetrain is rated at 671 horsepower, 752 pound-feet of torque. Just insane numbers to put in a C-Class, which is massive figures, but the C63 weighs nearly 4,800 pounds. And compare that's close to 1,000 pounds more than the old predecessor with the twin-turbo V8 with 503 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. And that again, I mean, if I were to choose between having a heavy car like the current C63 or with a crazy amount of power, 671 horsepower, or a lighter car with less horsepower, I am always going to go with the lighter car and less horsepower, because weight, you can't, trick physics. Weight is always going to have effect on the driving characteristics, specifically on a C. A C-Class is not a big car. It's supposed to be light and nimble with a big V8 up front. So despite the generous bump in power, the new 63 hasn't struck a chord with buyers. The consensus is that it's quick, but it lacks character, and it doesn't sound good at all. The switch from the V8 to hybrid power has caused a significant drop in sales, which is to be expected, obviously, because there is not a lot of cars that has such a connection to the powertrain and the car personality like a C63. As I said, the engine was close to maybe more than 50% of the experience of that old car. Mercedes-AMG is developing a new V8 engine. However, please understand we do not discuss future product plans, a spokesperson said. The CLE 63 is scheduled to go on sale by the end of 2025, and this will be the first vehicle with this new V8. So the CLE is not, that is also a pretty small car. It's almost the same size as the old C-Class Coupe, and having that with the new V8 is going to be a great machine. The design is beautiful. I reviewed the CLE 450. I loved how that one drive. It felt like a baby AMG, so having this new V8 in that one is going to be very, very interesting to see. So over in Munich, BMW has already confirmed that the next generation M3 will be offered with both a straight 6 and, of course, an electric powertrain, which is going to mess a little bit with the proportions. It's probably going to look a little bulkier than we're used to seeing M3s like we have with the M5. It looks a little bulky compared to the previous generations. Now, one thing I've loved doing ever since I was a kid is sketching. Over the years, I've taught thousands of students the art of design sketching using simple tools such as just a big pen, some print paper, and maybe a few markers. And now, I've bundled all my classes into one mega bundle of sketching madness called Analog Designer Pro Pack, and you can get instant access to all 11 hours of content for just $47. Inside, I'll teach you everything you need to know about design sketching, whether it be sketching cars or products, and I'll introduce you to my personal favorite sketching technique called cloud sketching that you won't find anywhere else. And this simplifies perspective sketching and how to get the proportions right, which is crucial when you're sketching cars or products. I'll take you from complete beginner to more advanced rendering techniques, and you don't need any special or expensive art supplies for this. See what my students have to say about this course and how it's helped them, and check it out yourself at analogdesignerpropack.com, linked down below. But with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and look at this design. I mean, the current generation C63. This to me is a design that definitely deserves a V8, because when you look at the just exterior design, they totally nailed it. I love this design. It looks beautiful. We have the upside down grille now instead of the smiling grille, so more of a frowning face in the front end. We have these big lines on the hood, massive muscles on the hood, and we have very, I would say, elegant looking front headlights here, and the lower section being typical AMG. Pretty much every single AMG has the same styling down here in the lower section, but it still looks very, very good. And this to me is a car that still has this, what I'm looking for, that's so lacking today, this emotional automotive design, meaning that we have fluid lines and not static lines. Everything is so fluid here. Love the wheels as well, looking absolutely stunning. And this color as well, even though I do think maybe, you know, matte black is sort of played out a little bit. On this car, in the sunset like this, looking gorgeous. So looking at the side view here, what I love about this design is the shoulder line and the bottom line, because we have such nice and clean line flow in this car. So I'm not sure if Mercedes is actually going to, because they said that the new V8, it could be fitted into cars that weren't designed originally to have a V8 in them. So I'm not sure if Mercedes is actually going to design a brand new C-Class, because this, I don't think this is that old, this C-Class. So they're probably going to take this same design, which again, in my opinion, is not a bad idea at all, because it looks great, and just slam the V8 in here. That is exactly what I personally want to see. I don't think they need to necessarily switch up this design, because it is beautiful as it is. Love the wheel design. Mercedes, I think, does better wheel designs than BMW, and in addition to that, they also have the same size wheel, so we don't have 19s in the front, 20s in the rear like BMW is doing. Here, it looks like these are probably, you can't really tell, probably 19s all around, which I think looks fantastic with the red calipers in contrast with this matte dark color that we have all around this car. Now looking at the rear end, this being a C63, that means that we do have the squared off tailpipes in the lower section. If you have a 55, it's going to be round, or a 53 is going to be round tailpipes. But in this case, this being the big bro, we have the squared off pipes here. And I do like the design of the taillights, looking very beautiful, has a connection to the front end design. Very it's sort of chiseled in the inside graphics of the taillights right here, but everything else is very organic, very round, but it still has a very Mercedes-like look to it. Mercedes like to slap this type of, I don't think this is functional. They slap this on pretty much every single vehicle, and I don't understand why, because to me what this detail does, first of all, we have this extra plastic piece, plastic trim piece, that doesn't, it just ruins the flow of the surfaces, because we have this line going from the lower section of the side into the bumper here. You can see this line right here. Looks very, very beautiful, but then it's sort of cut off or abrupted by this feature in the bumper. So I would always when I see this on Mercedes, I always want to remove this little piece right there. Now looking at the interior, the only thing that I don't like with this, so when you look at this interior just as a photo like this, what bothers me is that this center screen is tilted, angled just, I think, like 6 degrees to the passenger side, so it angled a little bit towards the driver, but it's not angled enough, so it looks like it's some sort of malfunction in the production line or something like that. I want to have it be straight up, and I do think they said that they're actually going to switch that up for the next generation or next facelift, to have this be straight, because we do have that in the AMG GT, and that looks a lot better. The AMG GT also has some sort of housing for the gauge cluster right here. But the thing is, when you're sitting inside here, when you're driving the car, this angle really did not bother me at all. It just felt natural to have that angle, and you couldn't really see it from the driver side. And overall, the interior here just looks great. We have this drive modes here, the suspension settings on the left side, this AMG steering wheel looking beautiful, AMG at the bottom, flat bottom steering wheel. We have a lot of carbon fiber going on here as well. I always been a fan of these vents, because when you use these vents, they have a weight to them, so they don't feel flimsy at all. It feels high quality across the entire interior. So it's very exciting to see what Mercedes is planning here. And this is just one manufacturer. Aston Martin, Bentley, both developing new V12s. And if they're putting in millions of dollars into developing this V8 and also the V12s for Bentley and Aston, I think we're heading towards a very, very exciting times for sports cars and, you know, luxury cars, because I do think the big V12s and the V8s are coming back. Mercedes is keeping the V12 for the Maybach S-classes as well. So fun times ahead, and I can't wait to see. And I want to hear what this sounds like when it comes out, because it's not going to sound like the old V8, but I still think it's going to sound pretty good, even though I personally do not care for the artificial pumped-in sound that we have in the next generation C63. So this is coming out next year. Very interesting to see how this is going to look like and how it's going to sound.